You train your body. You try to calm your mind. But have you ever felt them move as one? Most people don't even realize it, but they're living in pieces. Their thoughts race one way, their body drags the other, and they wonder why life feels heavy, chaotic, and unbalanced. You lift weights, but you're still anxious. You meditate, but you still feel weak. Why? Because you're divided. But I discovered something different. An exercise not just for strength, not just for peace, but for total alignment. A practice where every breath sharpens the body and every movement clears the mind. Where discipline meets flow. Where awareness becomes power. This is the exercise I created to unite body and mind into one unstoppable force. And once you feel it, you'll never train the same again. The false division between body and mind. From a young age, society teaches us to split ourselves in half. We're told that physical strength belongs in the gym, while inner peace belongs on a cushion in a quiet room. One is about sweat and muscle. The other is about silence and stillness. They act as if the body and the mind are two separate worlds, some grounded in action, the other floating in thought. But this separation is not natural. It is man-made. And it is the very reason most people live in confusion, frustration, and imbalance. They become physically strong but mentally chaotic. Or they become spiritually calm but physically weak. And then they wonder why something always feels missing. You see, I refused to live that way. I didn't want to be just a fighter or just a thinker. I believed that true mastery could only be found by unifying the physical and mental into one harmonious force. Because when you separate them, you create conflict inside yourself. You train one part while the other is neglected. But when you bring them together, you move with clarity. You think with strength, and you live with presence. That's why I never saw my training as just exercise. It wasn't about building muscles to look strong. And I never saw meditation as just sitting quietly. It wasn't about escaping the world. What I created was something Tapira, ritual, a discipline, a personal art form where the body and the mind meet in the same moment. An experience where every movement is done with awareness, and every breath supports the motion. I wasn't training to impress anyone. I wasn't performing. I was practicing alignment, internal alignment, that gave me more than speed or power. It gave me truth. Because when the body is strong, but the mind is weak, the strength becomes dangerous. And when the mind is clear, but the body is tired and unhealthy, the clarity becomes powerless. But when both come together, when the body supports the mind, and the mind commands the body, you become something rare, something most people never discover. You become complete. And that is the purpose of this exercise. Not to simply move, not to just sweat, but to return to your natural state where nothing is missing, nothing is wasted, and everything is one. The power of stillness before movement. Before any true movement can begin, before the punch, before the step, before the technique, there must be stillness. But most people skip this step. They rush into action. They jump into motion, into training, into life, without ever pausing to understand the state they are moving from. They think power begins with speed. They think improvement comes from doing more. But this is an illusion, because without stillness, your movement has no center. It becomes chaotic, shallow, disconnected. You see, stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the foundation of conscious movement. When you begin from a place of inner calm, your actions carry clarity. Your decisions carry purpose. But when you begin from noise, when your mind is agitated and your breath is shallow, then everything you do becomes a reaction, not a response. You're no longer choosing your path. You're just being pulled by the currents of chaos. That's why, in my practice, Everything starts with stillness, not laziness, not passivity, but alert stillness, the kind that awakens every cell in your body. You stand grounded, feet planted, spine aligned, shoulders relaxed, but not collapsed. Your eyes can close, but your awareness opens. You begin to breathe not, the automatic kind of breath that keeps you alive, but the conscious breath that brings you fully into this moment. You feel the air entering your nose, expanding your lungs. You hold it for a second, not with tension, but with respect. And then you exhale slowly, like releasing a burden that's lived inside you for too long. In that breath, something powerful begins to shift. You start noticing things you never noticed before, the tightness in your jaw, the buzzing in your mind, the urge to move without reason. And as you breathe deeper, those things begin to fall away. You return to your center. You reconnect to your body, not as a machine to control, but as a living, breathing extension of your awareness. And your mind, once restless and loud, begins to quiet. Not because you forced it, but because you gave it space. You stopped feeding the noise, and in return, it softened. This stillness is not just preparation, it is the training. Because learning to stand calmly in a world that constantly demands movement is a skill very few people master. Most people are addicted to motion. They think if they're not doing something, they're falling behind. But what they don't realize is that true movement must come from stillness, just like a wave rises only after the water has settled. Without that calm beginning, every step forward becomes a stumble. So, I teach stillness first, because when you can stand still with purpose, you are no longer a slave to impulse. You don't just move because the world says move. You wait, you breathe, you sense it. Only then, when you are fully connected to yourself, do you begin to act. And that's the difference between a fighter who throws punches out of panic and a warrior who strikes from inner peace. One reacts, the other responds. One is wild, the other is wise. And the difference between them is just a breath, a pause, a sacred moment of stillness. Movement as a conversation with the self. Once stillness has rooted you into the present moment, movement becomes something entirely different. It's no longer just about technique, repetition, or burning calories. It becomes a conversation, a dialogue between your inner awareness and your outer form. In this space, movement is not done to impress others. It is done to express truth. Every gesture, every shift in weight, every breath connected to motion becomes a message spoken, not in words, but in alignment, energy, and intention. This is where most people misunderstand training. They move without listening, they push without feeling, they focus on how it looks on the outside, never asking what it feels like inside. But the way you move reflects the way you live. Jerky, rushed, unbalanced movements reveal an unbalanced inner world. But when your movement flows calm, yet powerful, deliberate, yet effortless, it mirrors a mind that is centered, a soul that is listening. As your body begins to move, it should feel like you're gliding through water. Each motion begins from the core, not just physically, but energetically. Your arms don't lift on their own, they respond to the breath. Your hands don't cut through the air without purpose, they follow invisible lines of intention. The body isn't being controlled by the ego, it's being guided by awareness. Your spine straightens, your knees soften, your jaw relaxes. You aren't forcing anything. You're allowing yourself to move in harmony with what you feel, not what you think you should do. This is where motion becomes meditation. The mind is no longer wandering. It's anchored to the breath, to the body, to the now. Every step you take, every sweep of your arm, every turn of your head, it's all happening with precision and softness. You begin to feel the subtle connection between your inhale and the lift of your arms, the exhale and the lowering of your center of gravity, the rhythm of your heartbeat and the rhythm of your form. There is no conflict. There is no disconnection. There is just flow. And this flow isn't mechanical. It's not robotic or emotionless. It is deeply alive because it comes from a place of listening. You are not commanding your body. You are in conversation with it. You're asking, where do you feel tight? Where is the resistance? Where can I release? Each movement becomes an act of self-inquiry, a discovery. You are learning about yourself not through thought, but through embodied awareness. This kind of training is rare because it requires humility. It's not about showing off. It's about showing up for yourself, being honest with your limitations, being aware of your imbalances, letting the movement reveal your patterns, where you hold tension, where you lack control, where your breath disappears, and instead of judging it, you embrace it. Because this practice isn't about perfection. It's about connection. It's not about controlling your body like a machine. It's about partnering with it like a living, breathing friend. When you move like this consciously, openly, with presence, you are no longer exercising, you are awakening. You begin to realize that your body isn't just a vessel, it's a language, a spiritual instrument through which your inner world speaks. And the more fluent you become in this language, the more you understand who you really are. Because the body never lies. It will tell you when you're out of sync. It will tell you when you're forcing instead of flowing. And if you're listening, truly listening, you will begin to move in a way that heals, not harms, builds, not breaks, centers, not scatters. That's why movement, when done with awareness, becomes one of the most honest forms of self-expression. You're not performing, you're not chasing, you're simply being with full presence, full attention, and full truth. Training attention, not just muscles. In almost every gym, dojo, or training hall around the world, people are taught to focus on visible progress, reps, sets, sweat, weight, flexibility, speed, endurance. They are taught to push the limits of their muscles, to conquer physical weakness, to grind and break barriers. And while there is value in physical discipline, there is something deeper, something more powerful that is almost always forgotten: the training of attention. You see, your muscles can become strong, but if your attention is scattered, you're still vulnerable. You can punch harder, run faster, stretch deeper, but if your mind is unfocused, your movement loses purpose. Without conscious attention, motion becomes noise, power becomes reckless, and the body becomes a wild horse with no rider. That is why I always say, the mind is the true muscle, because while the body lifts the weight, it is the mind that lifts the discipline. While the arms throw the strike, it is the mind that determines its timing, intention, and control. Without mental clarity, even the strongest body becomes clumsy. Without awareness, even the most skilled technique becomes empty. In the exercise I created, every single motion is guided by deliberate attention. You are not just moving, you are watching yourself move. You are noticing the angle of your elbow, the rotation of your hip, the pressure in your feet, the expansion of your lungs. You are aware of the exact moment your breath begins and the exact moment your hand finishes a movement. Your attention becomes a spotlight illuminating every subtle sensation, every minor shift in energy. This is no longer exercise, it is mind training through the body. And as you train this way, something remarkable happens. Your awareness sharpens. Your reactions slow down, but your responses become faster. Why? Because you're no longer driven by unconscious habits. You're responding from clarity, from a place of deep centered control. When you're fully present, even one movement done slowly and mindfully can teach you more than 100 rushed repetitions done without focus. This is how your body becomes a teacher. Every time your attention slips, you feel it in your form. Your balance wobbles, your breath shortens, your rhythm breaks. And so you learn through trial, through sensation, through the honest feedback of your body. You stop relying on mirrors and external praise. You start feeling from the inside out. And this is what separates a conscious practitioner from someone who is merely exercising awareness of the inner experience. This kind of training is not just physical, it's emotional. When your attention is steady, you begin to notice how emotions live in the body. Tension in your shoulders might not be from bad posture, it might be fear, tightness in the chest, anxiety, a shaky stance, hidden insecurity. As your attention grows, you learn to navigate these sensations without judgment. You don't fight them. You observe them. You learn from them. You breathe through them. In doing so, you develop a kind of mental strength that is unshakable and no, because you force yourself to be tough, but because you've trained yourself to remain present even in discomfort. And here lies the deepest lesson. Attention is power. The world will always try to scatter your focus. Screens, noise, opinions, fear, comparison. They all pull your mind in 100 directions. But the more you train your attention, the more you regain control over your energy. You stop giving your power to distractions. You stop being pulled by every little thought or emotion. You become centered, grounded, clear. That is the true goal of this exercise. Not just to strengthen the body, but to discipline the mind that moves the body. To build a kind of internal stillness that holds steady, no matter how chaotic the world becomes. Because when your attention becomes laser sharp, even simple movements become profound. You realize that the quality of your presence matters more than the quantity of your effort. And suddenly, the way you train begins to shape the way you live. You walk through life, not in a haze, but with alertness. You speak with intention. You act with purpose. You don't react, you respond. And it all begins with this one truth. Training the body is temporary, but training attention transforms who you are. The flow state, when mind and body become one. There is a moment in training rare, subtle, and unforgettable, when everything clicks. The body no longer feels like something separate. The mind is no longer watching, analyzing, or interfering. The breath, the motion, the awareness, all merge into one seamless experience. It's as if time slows down, distractions vanish, and you are no longer doing the movement. You are the movement. This is called flow, and it is one of the highest states of human potential. But most people never touch it. Not because it's impossible, but because they're too busy trying to force things, rather than aligning with them. Flow cannot be reached through aggression. You don't fight your way into it. You don't overthink your way in either. Flow is accessed when you surrender your need to control and instead enter into complete presence. That means your attention is fully rooted in the now, not stuck in the past, not worried about what's next. You are here. You are breathing. You are moving. And every part of you is in perfect agreement with this moment. It starts with rhythm. Your breath becomes the conductor. It leads the orchestra of your limbs, your spine, your heartbeat. You inhale, and your movement rises. You exhale, and your motion grounds. Every strike, every block, every step is not just a technique, it is a manifestation of inner stillness expressing itself through action. You don't pause to judge how it looks. You don't ask yourself if it's perfect. You simply allow it to happen, trusting the hours of practice and presence you've built. In this state, the inner critic becomes silent. There is no room for doubt, for fear, or for hesitation. Thought gives way to instinct, but this is not blind instinct. It is trained intuition, refined over time through disciplined attention. You are no longer reacting out of panic. You are responding from pure clarity. You see openings before they appear. You move without effort. You flow like water around obstacles, adapting, adjusting, without breaking your center, and the body responds. The joints move more freely. The muscles engage without tension. Movements become faster but feel slower, more precise but feel effortless. This is the paradox of flow. The less you try to control, the more control you have. The less you think, the more you understand. The more you let go, the more complete you become. This is what I sought in every practice, to dominate my body, but to enter harmony with it, not to overcome the mind, but to quiet it so I could move from something deeper. To live in this state, even for a moment, is to know what it means to be fully alive. There is no conflict, no friction between thought and action, no lag between idea and execution. You are moving at the speed of presence. The line between mental and physical disappears. The you who was trying, forcing, proving, that version of you dissolves, and what remains is pure motion, pure being. And yet, most people chase this state the wrong way. They think more effort will lead to flow, so they strain harder, they compare more, they obsess over perfection. But these things only move you further away, because flow is not something you do, it's something you allow. It happens when preparation meets presence, when your practice is so rooted in awareness that eventually you stop needing to think about each step. You simply become the step. That's why repetition is not enough. Mindless practice doesn't build flow, it builds habits without consciousness. But when you bring attention into each repetition, each breath, each shift of the body, you begin to condition yourself not just physically but spiritually. You begin to cultivate a state of readiness where flow can rise on its own, like steam from a still lake. And this doesn't just happen in training, it spills over into life. You begin to walk, speak, work, and relate with that same fluidity. You respond to conflict, not with aggression, but with clarity. You navigate uncertainty not with panic, but with intuition. Your mind and body, once at odds, now function like one living, breathing instrument, tuned, aligned, unshakable. That's why I never separated philosophy from movement. I believed every kick, every stance, every breath held a deeper truth. And when body and mind aligned, that truth was revealed, not through words, but through action, through being. So, if you ever find yourself in flow, don't break it by thinking. Don't interrupt it with judgment. Let it teach you. Let it guide you. Because in that space, you are not training, you are awakening. And once you've touched that kind of presence, you'll never want to move any other way again. Awareness is the real strength. When people think of strength, they often imagine force-heavy muscles, loud movements, speed, dominance, and sheer power. They imagine someone who can lift more, hit harder, or go longer without breaking. But this definition of strength is incomplete, because true strength, the kind that endures, adapts, and inspires, not found in the size of the body. It is found in the quality of awareness that guides that body. And this is a truth that most never discover, because they spend their lives chasing the outer shell while neglecting the inner command center. You see, your awareness is what turns raw power into precision. It's what separates chaotic motion from focused movement. A man can throw 100 punches in anger and still miss his target. But someone who is deeply aware can strike once with absolute calm to hit the exact center. Why? Because awareness directs intention. It turns movement into meaning. It transforms strength from something external into something internal, rooted in intelligence, not just effort. In my own training, I learned this through experience. When I moved without awareness, I wasted energy. I became tense. I overcompensated. I relied on power, but felt empty. But when I slowed down and turned inward, when I made every motion an act of attention, I began to understand something that changed everything. The more aware I became, the less effort I needed to achieve more. I wasn't moving harder. I was moving smarter. This is why I say awareness is strength. Because awareness is what lets you feel the moment tension enters your body so you can release it before it turns into injury. Awareness lets you notice when your breathing becomes shallow so you can restore calm before anxiety takes over. Awareness lets you sense when your form breaks so you can correct it. Not out of panic, but out of wisdom. It becomes your early warning system, your inner coach, your quiet but constant guide. And it goes beyond the physical. When you cultivate awareness in training, you begin to notice its impact on your daily life. You start to see how you react to stress, how you speak when you're impatient, how you move when you're nervous. And because you've practiced self-observation through your body, you can now do the same through your thoughts and emotions. You become less reactive, less controlled by impulses. You stop fighting shadows and start seeing clearly. In this way, awareness becomes a stabilizing force in every area of your life. It's what allows you to face conflict without losing yourself. It's what lets you stay calm in chaos, alert in stillness, strong without being aggressive. You no longer need to prove anything, because awareness has already shown you who you are. You're not pretending to be composed, you are composed. Not because of ego, but because of presence. And here's the truth. Awareness takes more strength to maintain than any physical act. It's easy to throw a punch in rage. It's harder to feel the urge rise and to choose not to. It's easy to push your body beyond limits. It's harder to pause and ask yourself if the pain you feel is growth or damage. It's easy to follow the loud noise of the world. It's harder to stay still and listen to the quiet signal inside. But that's the kind of strength that changes lives. That's the kind of strength that doesn't fade with age, doesn't depend on looks, and cannot be taken from you. In the exercise I designed to align body and mind, awareness is woven into every movement. You don't just go through the motions. You pay attention. You feel the earth beneath your feet, the breath entering your nose, the shift of your hips, the expansion of your chest. You sense when your posture falters and when your intention fades. You reconnect to the moment over and over again. And in doing so, you cultivate a strength that most people will never know, a strength that comes not from domination, but from connection. Because real strength is not how much you can resist. It's how much you can remain aware without being shaken. How much presence you can maintain when your emotions flare. How deeply you can feel your body without judging it. How honestly you can observe your patterns without being ruled by them. And once you begin to live this way, training not just your muscles, but your mind, you begin to walk differently, speak differently, exist differently. You carry a stillness that is unbreakable, a clarity that cannot be fooled, a calm that becomes contagious. People notice it not because you're loud, but because you're anchored. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. That's what awareness does. It grounds you in your truth, and that kind of strength is beyond physical. So remember this: muscles may fade, speed may slow, the world may change, but awareness, once cultivated, only grows sharper. Train it, trust it, let it guide you. Because when your awareness becomes your strength, no one and nothing can shake the foundation you stand on. The return to stillness, integration of self. Every great movement must end in stillness. Every rhythm must return to silence. But this return is not a step backward, it is the completion of the cycle. In the exercise I created to unite body and mind, we always end where we began, not because we are repeating ourselves, but because we have transformed. The stillness you begin with is preparation. The stillness you end with is realization. It is the moment where all motion, all breath, all energy settles not in exhaustion, but in alignment. And if you've practiced with full presence, that final stillness is not empty, it is filled with understanding. After the last breath of motion, your feet return to still ground. Your hands lower, your shoulders soften. Your body feels different now, not just stretched or warmed, but activated. Your senses are sharper. Your breathing is deeper. Your awareness has expanded. And most importantly, your mind is no longer racing. It is slowed. It is softened. The thoughts that used to cloud your vision, the worries that used to pull you in 10 different directions, they have dissolved into the background because you've pulled your attention inward. You've reclaimed your center. In this final stillness, you begin to feel a rare kind of peace that doesn't depend on your surroundings, your schedule, or your success. It comes from inside. It is the peace of someone who has just faced themselves honestly and stayed. No running, no pretending, just breath, motion, and presence meeting life exactly as it is. And this stillness, though quiet, speaks volumes. It reminds you that you don't always need to push harder. You don't always need to perform. Sometimes the most powerful act is to stand still and feel everything with full awareness. Here, you begin to see that stillness is not the opposite of progress. It is where progress becomes visible. It is the mirror where your growth reveals itself not in external applause, but in the quiet knowing that you have returned to yourself. Stronger, clearer, more connected. And it's in this stillness that integration happens. Integration means that nothing you've just experienced is left behind. Every breath, every movement, every moment of focus is absorbed into who you are. It becomes part of your nervous system, your memory, your character. You are not the same person who stood at the beginning of this practice. You have evolved, not in leaps and sparks, but in subtle, powerful shifts that only deep awareness can detect. This is the difference between movement that exhausts and movement that awakens. Most people work out to get tired. They sweat, they collapse, they feel spent. But in this practice, we move to awaken toe, return to stillness more alive than when we started. This is not about draining energy. It's about circulating it, clearing it, reclaiming it. And when you return to stillness, you don't feel depleted. You feel whole. Stillness after conscious movement becomes sacred. It is not just a pause. It is a ceremony of integration, a space where the mind bows to the body and the body listens to the mind. It is the reunion of parts that were once fragmented, the closing of the loop, the affirmation that you are no longer divided, no longer chasing one half while neglecting the other. In this moment, body and mind are not just aligned, they are one. And what you begin to realize is that this practice isn't confined to a mat, a studio, or a set routine. It's a way of being. You carry it into the rest of your life. The stillness teaches you how to pause before reacting, how to breathe before speaking, how to listen to your body before pushing through pain, how to let silence guide you when the world is loud. It becomes more than a training method. It becomes a philosophy, a foundation, a spiritual practice. Because in the stillness that follows conscious movement, you come face to face with something very few people ever touch in their entire lives, your undivided self. Not the version of you that is performing for others. Not the version that's anxious or afraid or distracted, but the real you. The you that is calm, alert, rooted, and free. And from that place, everything changes. You begin to move through life with more grace. You listen more deeply. You notice more beauty. You speak with intention. You act from clarity. You're no longer pulled by noise or fear or urgency. Because you have trained something deeper than muscle, you have trained the art of inner alignment. That's the gift of returning to stillness. It's not an ending. It's a return to wholeness. A reminder that within you is a place untouched by chaos. And when you learn to move toward it again and again, you no longer live from reaction. You live from center, from peace, from truth. So don't rush this moment. Stand in it. Breathe in it. Let it settle into your bones. Because the stillness after the storm is what makes the entire journey worthwhile. The final teaching. Unity is power. There is a moment after the stillness settles where a deeper realization begins to emerge, not just as a thought, but as a truth felt deep in your bones. It's the understanding that everything you've just experienced, every breath, every movement, every pause, was not separate. It wasn't about the physical followed by the mental, or the external followed by the internal. It was all one thing, one unified flow. And in that unity, there is power. Because the greatest illusion we are taught is that we must choose. Choose between being strong or being peaceful, between moving fast or thinking clearly, between becoming successful or staying grounded. But that idea is false. It's a trap that keeps people living in fragment shaft, present in their bodies, half lost in their minds, always chasing, never arriving. The truth is this: you don't have to choose between body and mind. You were born to unite them. From the beginning of this exercise, we've been dissolving the false wall that separates thought from action, awareness from motion, strength from softness. When you stood in stillness, you were already training your mind. When you moved with breath, you were already awakening your body. When you focused your attention on each motion, each inhale and exhale, you were practicing a higher kind of discipline, not just physical, but spiritual. You weren't just exercising, you were becoming whole. This is the essence of my teaching. Not to punch harder, not to be faster than others, but to know yourself completely and to act from that place of unity. Because when your body and mind are aligned, you become unstoppable, not because of force, but because of flow. You don't waste energy fighting yourself. You don't break under pressure because you're not resisting reality. You are in harmony with it. You move with it. You become like water, adaptable, resilient, and powerful beyond measure. Think about the people who impress you most in life. The ones who walk into a room and instantly shift the energy. They're not always the loudest or the strongest or the most physically dominant. What they have is presence, stillness in their eyes, control in their breath, clarity in their movement. That kind of presence is not something you're born with. It's something you build through practices like this, through training that doesn't divide you, but unites every part of you. Because when you live in alignment, every step you take becomes intentional. Every word you speak carries weight. Every decision is backed by clarity. You no longer chase moments, you create them. You no longer beg for peace, you carry it inside you. You stop reacting to the chaos of the world and start shaping your experience from the inside out. That is the kind of power this exercise develops. Not the kind that needs to be proven, but the kind that cannot be taken away. But let's be clear, this isn't easy. Unity doesn't happen by accident. It requires practice, patience, and presence. You will be tempted to separate again, to rush, to force, to focus only on results. But every time you return to this training, every time you ground yourself in stillness, move with awareness, and breathe with discipline, you are reminding yourself of the deeper truth. You were never meant to be divided. And once you taste that unity even for a few moments, you'll never want to live any other way. You'll start to bring it into everything you do, the way you walk, the way you eat, the way you speak to others, the way you sit with your own thoughts. This isn't about creating a moment of peace in your day. It's about creating a life built on peace, shaped by discipline and carried by presence. So let me leave you with this. The world will always try to pull you apart, to rush your body while distracting your mind, to fill your ears with noise while disconnecting you from yourself. Don't let it. Instead, train yourself to return to unity again and again. Build a bridge between movement and meaning. Make every action an extension of awareness. Turn your training into a ritual of integration, not separation. Because the most powerful person in the world is not the one who conquers others, it is the one who has mastered himself. And self-mastery is not found in force. It is found in unity, the rare and sacred moment when your body, your breath, and your mind are one. That is the final teaching. That is the truth behind this exercise. Not performance, not perfection, but presence, wholeness, unity. That is real power. Make it your own, embodying the practice beyond the training. Everything you've learned, every breath, every stance, every focused movement means nothing if you treat it like a ritual to be performed and forgotten. The real purpose of this exercise is not to impress. It's not to perfect some elegant technique or to check a box in your training schedule. The true purpose is to internalize the experience so deeply that it becomes a way of life. That's what real transformation is, not a temporary state you enter, but a permanent shift in how you move, think, feel, and live. When I created this practice, it was not meant to be followed blindly. It was not meant to become a rigid formula. It was meant to awaken your awareness, to show you how it feels to move with presence, to breathe with intention, to unify the pieces of yourself that the world has tried to divide. But once you've felt that unity, that deep alignment between your body and mind, the next step is the most important of all. Make it your own. You must take what you've experienced here and carry it into the spaces where your discipline is tested the most. It's easy to feel calm in a quiet room. It's easy to move with grace when no one is watching, when your environment is controlled, when your breath is steady and your mind is focused. But the real challenge, the real path of mastery is whether you can bring that same awareness into your relationships, your struggles, your daily interactions. Can you walk into conflict with the same centered presence you practiced in stillness? Can you hold your breath steady when the world pushes you to panic? Can you move through a noisy life with the same quiet mind you cultivated in silence? That is the extension of this exercise. That is the next level. To take everything you've trained on the mat and embody it off the mat. Because your life is the real dojo. The real sparring partner is your own ego. The real opponent is your inner noise. And the greatest victory is not over others, but over the unconscious patterns that keep you divided. Let me be clear. This doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means becoming aware. It means that when you lose your center, you know how to return to it. When your breath shortens, you notice it. When your movements become tense, you adjust. You're not a slave to reaction anymore. You are a conscious participant in every moment. That's what it means to integrate body and mind, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. And as you keep practicing, your understanding of this exercise will evolve. You'll discover new layers in familiar movements. You'll find that the slowest gestures reveal the deepest truths. You'll begin to listen not just with your ears, but with your whole being. You'll become sensitive not in weakness, but in strength. Because the more attuned you are, the more control you have not through domination, but through discernment. That is the path of the mindful warrior. But none of this happens unless you commit not to the technique, but to the principle behind it. The principle of unity, of bringing your full self to each moment, of refusing to move through life in fragments, of turning every breath into a reminder, every step into a statement: I am here, I am whole, I am awake. So take this exercise, refine it, personalize it, let it evolve with you. Let it teach you not just how to move better, but how to live better. Let it shape how you sit, how you speak, how you respond to stress, how you hold yourself in moments of uncertainty. Because when you do, the gap between your practice and your life will disappear. And you will no longer need to switch between the version of you who trains and the version who lives in the world. You will be one and the same, always aware, always aligned, always becoming. That is the ultimate mastery, not to become someone else, but to become fully yourself. Not to chase an image of perfection, but to live in constant practice of presence. Because presence is where growth happens. Presence is where healing begins. Presence is where strength reveals itself, not through noise, but through stillness. Not through force, but through intention. So take this gift and honor it not by repeating it perfectly, but by living it honestly. Make it your own. Let it shape you. And when the time is right, pass it on. Be water, my friend. The living philosophy of unity. In the end, all of this, every movement, every breath, every teaching, leads to one timeless truth. A truth I've repeated not as a slogan, but as a way of being. A living philosophy born from stillness, tested in chaos, and proven in the silence that follows motion. Be water, my friend. You've heard these words before. They sound simple, poetic, even mysterious, but they are not just a quote to admire. They are a blueprint for how to live. Water is not weak. Water is not passive. Water is the perfect expression of unified power. It is gentle when it needs to be, and it is fierce when the moment demands. It flows through every space without resistance, and yet shapes mountains with patience. It never fights, but it always wins. When you move like water, you don't resist life, you align with it. You don't crash blindly, you adapt consciously. You don't break under pressure, you reshape yourself and keep flowing. This is what it means to train the body and the mind as one. Not to become rigid, not to chase some final form, but to become fluid, alert, and deeply connected to everything within and around you. You see, most people live like ice tents, reactive, hard. They crack under strain. They cling to fixed patterns, old beliefs, rigid routines. But ice can only survive in a limited environment. Once things heat up once, life becomes unpredictable. It shatters or melts into chaos. But water transforms. It becomes mist. It becomes steam. It becomes snow. It becomes waves. Water doesn't just survive change. It becomes it. This is the final lesson of the exercise I created, not simply to align body and mind within a training session, but to carry that alignment into your way of life, to become so rooted in your breath, your awareness, your presence, that you are able to meet the world in whatever form it comes. Whether you are standing in stillness or thrown into action, whether you are facing calm or storm, you remain unshaken because you've trained yourself to flow. And let me tell you, this ability, this state, cannot be given. It cannot be faked. It must be built, practiced, honored. It comes from the discipline of being present when others are distracted, of returning to your breath when others panic, of listening to your body when others push blindly past their limits. It comes from letting go of the ego's need to be perfect and instead becoming true. Because water is not afraid of being soft. It is not obsessed with being seen. It simply moves fully, honestly, completely. And in that movement, it becomes the most powerful force on earth. That is what you must become. Not a rigid sculpture of strength, but a living force of nature. Not someone who dominates the world, but someone who flows through it with clarity, power, and peace. And when you live this way, when you think like water, move like water, breathe like water, something begins to change in you. You stop trying to control everything. You start to trust yourself more. You start to let things pass without breaking you. And when challenge arrives, and it always does, you no longer panic. You adjust. You respond. You flow. That's why I say be water, my friend. Because water contains everything. It teaches you how to be strong without being hard, how to be graceful without being weak, how to shape the world, not by resisting it, but by moving through it with intelligence and presence. So this is where the journey leads not to an ending, but to a beginning. A beginning where every day becomes practice, where every interaction becomes a reflection of your inner state, where your training is not a routine, but a rhythm, where your life is not divided between effort and ease, but flows like a single current, guided by awareness. You don't need to fight to be strong. You don't need to prove to be enough. You need only to return to your center, align your breath, connect your body and mind, and let the rest take care of itself. Because once you've learned to move like water, you've already won. Leave the form, keep the spirit. The journey never ends. Now that you've walked through this journey through stillness and motion, breath and focus, strength and surrender, you may be wondering, what comes next? Do you repeat the exercise exactly as it was taught? Do you master every motion, polish every breath, memorize every detail? That's where many lose the essence. Because the truth is, once you've absorbed the spirit of the practice, you must let go of the form, not to forget it, but to transcend it. I created this exercise not to bind you to my way, but to awaken you to your own. I am not here to make you into me. I am here to show you what it feels like to be fully alive, fully present, fully in tune with your body and your mind, and then invite you to carry that awareness into your own rhythm, your own practice, your own life. What I give you is not a cage, it's a compass. Too often, people cling to structure. They want rules to follow. They want to be told exactly how to move, exactly how to breathe, exactly when to begin and end. And in the beginning, that's helpful. It creates focus. It builds discipline. But if you stay there forever, you miss the deeper lesson. The purpose of structure is to prepare you to move without it. Form is the shell, spirit is the essence. And the spirit of this practice is freedom through awareness. You see, real mastery is not about doing something the same way every time. It's about knowing why you're doing it and being able to adapt that understanding to any situation, any environment, any challenge. That's why I always taught my students, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. If emotion no longer serves your growth, evolve it. If a breath no longer connects you, deepen it. If a thought limits, you release it. This is not disrespect to the practice. It is respect to your own truth. What matters most is not the technique, is the energy behind the technique, the awareness, the presence, the alignment. You can perform the most beautiful form with a distracted mind and it means nothing. Or you can make a single quiet movement with full presence and it becomes a revelation. So don't become obsessed with imitation. Become devoted to self-realization. Let the movements be a mirror. Let the breath be a guide. Let your body teach you what your mind has forgotten. This is the way of true inner martial arts, not just physical combat, but spiritual integration. Not just about defending yourself from external attacks, but defending your peace from internal noise. You will not always need to throw punches, but you will always need to be clear, calm, and composed, especially when life throws unexpected blows. And this practice, it sharpens that clarity. It roots that calm. It strengthens that center. So now, as you step beyond this session into your day, into your life, into the unknown, I ask you to walk with that awareness. Don't rush back into the old patterns. Don't lose the rhythm you've built. Don't let the noise of the world erase the silence you've just discovered. Instead, carry it, protect it, live it. Let your every step be intentional. Let your every breath be conscious. Let your every movement remind you, you are not divided. You are one. And remember this above all, you are not a collection of techniques. You are not a copy of anyone else. You are not just body or just mind. You are a living force of energy, wisdom, and presence. Let that guide you. Leave the form. Keep the spirit. Return to the world, but never forget yourself. And whatever you face, flow with it. Adapt to it. Master it. Be water, my friend, always. The journey within. Mastery begins where the world ends. By now, you've stepped through the layers stillness, movement, awareness, unity, and begun to feel the power of living with your body and mind in alignment. But before this journey closes, there is one final truth you must understand. A truth that most overlook because they're too focused on results, too obsessed with the visible. And that truth is this: the greatest mastery you will ever achieve is the mastery of your inner world. This is where the path leads not to a stage, not to applause, not to trophies or titles, but inward. Because everything you're looking for, peace, confidence, control, resilience, it doesn't exist outside of you. It never has. And until you learn to sit with yourself, to breathe through your storms, to listen to the quiet voice beneath the noise, you will always be chasing shadows. You'll build your strength on sand. You'll confuse motion with meaning, and you'll miss the very thing your soul is longing for: presence, wholeness, depth. This exercise I created, the breath, the flow, the stillness, it is not meant to impress. It is meant to strip you down, to remove the layers of performance, fear, comparison, and ego, and bring you back to something raw, real, and untouched by the world. Because underneath the noise, underneath the chaos of thought, is a place where you are whole, where you are already enough, where you don't have to prove anything. That place isn't found by running faster. It's found by turning inward. And that is the final level of this practicino technique. Not form, not even discipline. The highest level is intimacy with your own presence. To walk into a room and be so grounded, so calm, so aware that your very energy shifts the environment. To face adversity without fear, because you've already faced yourself. To move through life with the kind of silent strength that comes not from domination, but from deep self-knowledge. This kind of mastery does not shout. It does not perform. It does not seek validation. It simply is, unshaken, undivided, free. You won't find it in mirrors or praise. You'll find it in the quiet moments, in the way you rise after falling, in the breath you take before reacting, in the choice to be kind when it would be easier to be cruel, in the way you treat yourself when no one's watching. That's where the true warrior is formed, not in the arena, but in the silence that surrounds it. And once you begin living from that place, once you truly trust your own presence, you'll notice a shift. You'll stop rushing. You'll stop chasing. You'll stop needing everything outside of you to be perfect. Because the calm you were searching for out there is now alive inside you. That's when the exercise stops being a practice and starts becoming a way of being. And so, as you stand now at the end of this guided journey, know that you are not the same as when you began. You've built a deeper connection to your body, not through punishment, but through awareness. You've trained your mind not through force, but through breath. You've united parts of yourself that were once strangers. And in doing so, you've stepped into something sacred, something eternal. But this is not the end. This is the beginning of a life lived with presence, of decisions made with clarity, of emotions felt without being enslaved by them, of actions rooted in awareness. This is the beginning of walking with the kind of power that doesn't destroy but creates, the kind of strength that doesn't dominate but uplifts, the kind of discipline that doesn't punish but liberates. Because now, you know what it means to be fully alive, to breathe and feel your own power, to move with intention and return to stillness, to stand rooted in chaos, to be both calm and fierce, to carry peace, not because life is easy, but because you've trained for it. And when the world comes at you fast, when challenges rise like storms, when the noise gets loud again, remember what you've practiced here. Return to your breath. Return to your center. Return to the truth. You are not divided. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are whole. You are aware. You are ready. So now you know, this was never just about an exercise. It was never just about how to move your body or how to calm your mind. It was about learning how to live with presence, power, and inner unity. The modern world pulls you in every direction. It pressures you to be fast, to be loud, to keep chasing without ever arriving. But this practice is your anchor, your reminder that greatness is not found in chaos, it's found in clarity. That true strength doesn't come from control, it comes from connection. And that the most powerful thing you can ever become is undivided. You have within you everything you need. The body, the breath, the awareness, the path has already been shown. And now it's yours to walk. Train not just to move better, but to live better. Breathe not just to survive, but to awaken. Be strong not to overpower, but to remain unshaken. Let every motion from now on carry meaning. Let every breath be your teacher. Let every moment bring you back to your center. Because in the end, this is not just a physical exercise, it is a spiritual return. A return to self, to peace, to stillness in motion, to power without force, to the unity that was always inside you, waiting to be remembered. And when doubt returns, when the noise creeps back in, when life becomes overwhelming again, as it will come back to this truth, you are not just a body. You are not just a mind. You are the space where both meet. You are presence in form. You are strength without tension. You are clarity without words. You are stillness in motion. So move through the world like water, graceful, powerful, unshakable. Move with awareness. Move with intention. And never again forget who you truly are. Be water, my friend. Not just when you train, but in every breath, in every step, and in every single moment of your life.